Hello, today we're going to be walking through FieldDoc and our major updates to the system. My name is Erin Hoffman, and I am the User Strategy and Application Lead for Chesapeake Commons. Our organization is focused on building meaningful software for other organizations working to improve water quality. Today, I'm going to present the work that myself and my team have done to create major platform updates for FieldDoc. To set the stage, I want to give you a really high-level overview of where we are with FieldDoc, defining the why. The reason we established FieldDoc is because FieldDoc as a restoration platform addresses some specific needs. It's very challenging to document restoration work. Ultimately, the way we've worked to position this platform is to make it easy as possible to begin documenting work in the field. A major component of this system is making sure that we're able to track all of the diverse restoration projects across a defined area with a unified set of tools and a unified set of way to estimate load reductions and be able to understand specifically what the impacts of these projects are. One of the biggest challenges that we face as a movement is being able to know exactly where this work has been done and is happening on the ground. In the case of this work, work with FieldDoc, we've been able to partner with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. They've been one of our founding partners and have helped us develop the FieldDoc platform along with Maryland's Department of Natural Resources. And now, we're starting to go outside of the Bay and work with restoration and land protection tracking in the Delaware River watershed with William Penn Foundation and the Open Space Institute. The other thing that's important to emphasize is that all of the data that's being contributed into the platform is the end result of your hard work and being able to document your grant funding work on the ground. So we see this platform as a ground-up system that allows people to input the hard work that they're doing in the field and track that respective progress. Just as a primer for that, the work that we've been doing in FieldDoc has been focused on making sure that we're incorporating our user feedback that we get regularly from folks in the field and users in the system. So you can put our latest updates that this training covers into 3 areas. We've put a significant amount of work into making it a lot easier to manage your restoration project within the system. And we're looking to simplify that process for inputting and updating projects as you move along with them. And we'll see that moving here. And we will dive into a live demonstration of all of this in a few minutes. We've also been working really hard to make it very easy to calculate load reductions. And we'll go through this in detail, specifically as it relates to how to enter a practice extent and location and get an automated load reduction spit back at you. And lastly, being able to make your project information private. This is very important for agricultural practices and the need to respect farmer privacy. Then also, in the case where you want to see the cumulative impact of your project, we've implemented a variety of dashboard visualization features for both our foundation partners and the users within the system so that everyone can take advantage of this work. One of the biggest pieces that we've enhanced a lot is our project site and practice views. As we walk through this training together, what you'll be able to see are some significant updates on the mapping side. You're not only able to update point geography, but now you're also able to add polygon information as well. The other piece that is being able to expand the different components of automating metrics and load reductions, as well as focusing on the planning and prioritization of work. So in the case of expanding the we of the technical partners, we have the great fortune of being able to partner with the Chesapeake Bay program, as well as the Chesapeake Conservancy and the Academy of Natural Sciences, whereas they're helping us build a variety of different modeling components that we can incorporate into this platform as we continue to scale out to the users as they're adopting the system. Oh, and there are the logos. Lastly, as I mentioned, we are beginning to focus on the visualization side. So as we start to collect this project information as related to project sites and practices on the landscape, we'll all be able to take that data and roll it up to see cumulative impact. This will work at the site level or drill down to the practice scale or roll that information up to a grant program to see what the cumulative impact is of all the investments in that program. Now I'm wrapping up our introduction. It's time to dive in to a full run through of the system so you can see what to expect as you're creating and updating projects in the system. So let's switch over to the system itself. A couple of things as we step through. If you were a user in the old FieldDoc, your information is already moved over, and there's no additional registration that you need to do in order to use this new system. Your full project details may not fully be there yet. However, they will be following you over shortly. That's everything from your geographic locations and all the metrics that you added to each of your projects. So just to dive in, I just logged in as a general user to the system. And so what you see will look quite familiar to what you'll see on your own pages. And to get started, we're going to create a new project from scratch. If you have not yet created an account and you are a new user of FieldDoc, that's totally fine too. When you register, you'll be stepped through the process of creating your personal account and assigning your email address to an organization. And we think this is really important. It helps with transparency as well as keeping projects well maintained across the platform. So from that home page, you'll be able to create a new project and get started. And this will look a bit different than how FieldDoc looked in the past. So we're going to create our project. And you'll most likely take the same title and description that you used in your actual application to your funder and recreate that in FieldDoc as well so that they match. The organization will be chosen based on who you already chose that you work for. And then most importantly, you need to assign this project to a grant program. And what this does is allow the administrators of that grant program to see all of your information, as well as assign the correct metrics to and algorithms or models to this project so that the right information is being calculated and added to your project. So for this one, we're going to do the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Trust Fund. And last but not least, you could actually turn on privacy at the project level if you don't want any of this to be able to be public, or you can scale that down at the site or the practice level, which we'll talk about momentarily. Once you have this all filled out, click Save. And you will be brought to the landing page of your workspace for this project. The first thing we want to do is first confirm we have the right project, the right program, and you can see a description here. As we fill out different components of this project, you'll start to see information here populate, which is really neat. So take a look right now. You're looking at the entire US. And as we move along, we'll look back here and see how it changes. Now, at all three levels, the project, site, and practice level, the right-hand navigation bar gives you quite a few different icons that you can interface with, and they are quite similar at each level. So we can quickly walk through what each of these is at the site level, at the project level. First, you have your edit button. This allows you to go back to that piece that we just filled out and make any changes that you might need. Next, the bank is your grant program. If you need to change which funding program you're associating with this, you can do it here. Right now, there's a one-to-one relationship, so you can only choose one grant program for each project that you create. The two people is your collaborators. So if you have someone within your organization or someone from a partnering organization that you also want to have access to this project, you can assign those people here. They'll need to have FieldDoc accounts as well in order to get access, and anyone that is assigned as a collaborator will have full access to a project in the system. Next, we'll go down to this fun bowling ball. This is where you can add partner organizations and match dollars. Everything is monetarily associated, so if you have any match amounts that are in kind, you have to assign a dollar amount to them if you'd like. But this is a great way to identify who your partners are and what they're contributing to the project. And we can add in here $10,000 worth of trees. And you can delete those at any time. Next, we have our metrics. This is obviously a very important part of FieldDoc at all three levels. And what's important to note is that at the project level, you'll be able to assign any metrics associated with the project, regardless of which practice or site they are actually occurring with. So you'll want to spend some time here thinking through what your practices are and which metrics you'll be tracking with them. Everything that you see here was identified as a metric that the administrators for the assigned funding opportunity would like to track. So let's just put in the miles of fencing installed and acres of habitat restored because they're close and at the top. And we'll just see how those move along throughout the project. So as you click a plus sign, it'll move these metrics up so that they're available to you throughout the project. And you'll click save so that they stay there. And if we go back to our mosaic or the landing page, you'll start to see where those metrics appear. Now, interestingly, note down here at the bottom that we don't actually have any, we haven't assigned any quantitative amount to these metrics yet. So let's go back into our metrics page and assign that we're going to create 10 miles of fencing throughout the entire project, and we're going to restore 1,000 acres of habitat. And we'll click save again. Confirms that we've changed our targets. And when we go back, look what you'll see here. You have those goals identified. Yet, of course, we're still at 0% installation. Tags are an option that the administrators can turn on or off. This funding opportunity does not have tags, so you can skip that for now. And last but not least, if you need to delete a project in its entirety, we have this handy trash can waiting for you to do that. Now that we have our highest level of project information, let's drill down to the next level and add our first site. Happy Farms BMPs will be taking place at 2 sites. The first one we're going to name Joyous Farms. And we're going to add in a description. This is helpful not only for you and your collaborators, but also for the funders to see where you're working. And we are going to keep the privacy off. Click save. And remember to click save. The system does not automatically save any of the information. So if we go back to the mosaic, we'll see here that we're at the site level. We have our farm information, but we don't yet have a location and we haven't yet put any metrics in. So let's put in that location first. First, let's go to this pinpoint icon. One of the great things about this new updated FieldDoc is that you can add a shapefile directly. And this will assign, will show up on your map. And so let's go to site number 1 and see if it'll open. And we'll click save. And look at that, the shape file of the parcel is displayed on the map. So when we click save, we'll go back to our landing page and you can see where that project is taking place, which is really cool. The next item that you can do is you can assign some of those project match dollars to this location. So there was 5,000 or 10,000 in general. We'll say that 5,000 is going to this location. And this is just tracked kind of behind the scenes. There's not much functionality available with it yet, but we thought it was important for you to be able to track the dollars as well as the restoration work, so we provided it. Now let's go down to the metrics. Now, instead of having that incredibly long list you saw at the project level, you can assign metrics available from the ones that you identified as relevant to your project. If you realize that you missed something and you need to add more metrics, no big deal. Go back to your project and you can add them and then choose to add them to this site as well. So what's cool is maybe you aren't doing all of the work at each site. You can add in which metrics you will be tracking at this site and save it. And then add in the quantity, just like we had to do at the project level. And we'll save it and go back. Oops. Let's add that 5 in and save it. Let's see if it worked. And now you can see here that we're going to install up to 5 miles of fencing at this practice. And we already know that we have no tags associated with this, this site. So let's go back to the project level and add our second site in. And what's really one of our goals, as we mentioned with the upgrades to FieldDoc, was making the process of adding your information easier. So hopefully you're already starting to see that rhythm of the same process taking place over and over again, going down that list of icons and identifying the information that you need to add in order to get everything that your funders want into FieldDoc. And so I'm just going to quickly add this information. If you can't tell, I'm really bad at typing and talking at the same time, but hopefully we're making do. We're going to scroll down. One question we often get about these new parcel boundaries is, what if I don't have a parcel shapefile? And right now, what we can suggest that you do is draw it manually using these handy tools that we've provided. And once we get down to the practice level, I'll show you that in action. We're trying to steer away from using pinpoints going forward, just because in order to calculate the estimated load reductions, we need to have those parcel polygons. So we've saved this one. If we go back to our landing page, we can now see that parcel on here, and we're going to add our metrics. And this one has a lot more work happening, so it has. We're going to save it, and let's make sure they're there. Okay, so both of our metrics are appearing. Let's go back to our metrics icon. We have 5 more acres, 5 more acres of miles to do, and I think I have like 1,000 acres of habitat that we are going to restore here. And we'll see what those, and then those metrics are updated. So let's go back to our project landing page. Oops, and it looks like something's not quite right on here, so we'll have to look into that. It looks like my Joyous Farms details got changed. So let's change that back to the correct site. I must have accidentally clicked at some point. Click Save, go back to our, there we go. See, even the demo person can make mistakes from time to time. So now let's go back to our, there we go. This is our landing page for our entire project. And you can see where both parcels are, where project practices will be implemented. So let's go implement one of those practices now. The interesting thing for the most funding opportunities that are available through FieldDoc is that they are relying on practices that were identified in broader models. So for the case of this funding opportunity, all of the available practices are associated directly with those available in the CAST model. So if you're wondering, what practice do I choose? You can refer to the CAST model documentation to see what those are. We can also, once I put this in, fencing, description, adding fencing. And again, these descriptions are both for you and for the funder to see. So once you come down to this practice type down below, this is what's going to link the practice that you're identifying with all the load reductions and modeling and tags and all that stuff across the entire funding opportunity and across all of the applicants and the grantees and all those things. So it's so important to keep this information consistent. So we're going to do an agricultural forest buffer narrow. Once you choose a practice, below the practice itself, a description of what that practice is appears, as well as some brief instructions in the last sentence about what to include for your your practice polygon that you're going to draw in a moment. And the interesting thing is you can also click and open in a new tab all of the information you might want to know about the model that's being used. So I added this to a new tab. I highly recommend that you bookmark this page so you can refer to it when you need to. And you can scroll down and see every single practice that the system is capturing, as well as description and any instructions that are associated with it. We really want to be transparent about the information that we're collecting and the modeling that we're using to create these estimated reductions. So you can click through to see any of that documentation here as well. In a separate training, I'm going to go through some details, specifics on some of the practices, most specifically the stream restoration ones, protocol 1, 2, and 3. But in the effort to keep this training a little bit shorter, I'm going to do that separately. So once you add your practice type, you're going to click Save. And just as you did for this is the practice. Once you add your practice, you're going to want to identify the location. One of the updates that you might not even notice in the new FieldDoc is that we now deliver you straight to where you identified that parcel, so that you can draw on where the actual site will be implementing the practice. So I've clicked on this polygon and I'm simply going to draw on the location, and the system will calculate the area of this polygon so that it can then calculate the estimated load reduction. If you have a shapefile readily available, you can also upload that. We'll click Save. And at this level, you can also add photos if you have any photos associated with the project. Some funders ask that you add those, so just check with your administrator there and see what they want. Now, what the system will do is calculate the estimated load reductions based on the parcel size, the polygon size, the practice location, and the practice that you chose. And you can see those here. You can also add in the metrics that you assigned to this project and site location, and add those in as well as what you're attempting to achieve. And press Save. And we'll go back to that landing page. So now you're seeing the practice overview for this practice at this site for this project, and all of those metrics. If you get funded, as you fill in your interim and final reports for your funder, you'll be able to add updates to your progress by adding a progress report. And we've simplifies this a lot from the old FieldDoc. If you were familiar with that, you can scroll down and just add in progress towards the metrics that you identified and add any notes, and then click Save. I'm not going to do that right now because we haven't done this project. And so we will go back to our project overview, and we can see now all of the metrics that are being tracked. We can add in another practice at a separate site. Just to note, you can add in multiple practices at each site. You can have as many sites as you need. Please do not add don't add practices as sites. If it's all taking place at the same parcel, please just create one site and then add all those practices as separate tiles at that site. And again, by now, this should feel like a good rhythm you have going on. You're going to add that practice data. You're going to add in your name. Obviously, it will be way more descriptive than what I'm saying. It will actually be accurate. You can look at that practice type, add it in, confirm using the definition that you're using the right practice, and press save. Make sure to add those site locations so that we can calculate those reduction loads for you. And again, we're going to use that polygon. And let's see, where do we have a good wetland area here? Let's just say it's like this. And we're going to finish that. We'll click save. And we'll go to those metrics. And again, we have our pre-calculated or automatically calculated models, which you can, if you're like, oh, I don't understand what's going on, I want to learn more, you can click over to that automated model page and see that information. And you can add in your available metrics that you would like to track as well. So I believe there was 1,000 here and 5 more there. Okay. At this point, you're finished. You're ready to share this information with your funder. Most funders ask that you send a PDF along with your actual application to them, and you can do that by clicking on at either the project page or the site page, the print feature, and you'll be able to open that as a PDF and kick it out to your application. As the last part of this tutorial training, I'm going to skip over to an administrator, different dashboard, just because it has a lot more projects. And we're going to look at one of the other new, really cool features of FieldDoc, and that is dashboards. So you can get to your dashboards on the left-hand navigation panel. And everyone, regardless of if you are an administrator or a individual user, can take advantage of this really cool feature. We developed dashboards as a way to step through a process of being able to show a full overview of a project at work in a really visually appealing and beneficial way to understanding what's going on. We've been able to do this as a setup where all the dashboards can be configured based on the project information that you have access to in the system. So you can give a new dashboard, you can create a new one at any time by giving it a name. And we're going to call this one Demo Dashboard 2. And we're going to give it a description. These are so important because as you start to build filters and start to track certain items, you're going to want to use your description here so that you can recall which dashboard has what information. I don't know what we're going to do yet, so we're just going to give it a really vague name, but don't use this as a good model. So we give you options to add metrics, geographies, and filter categories and stuff. So you can either choose by specific projects or by funding sources or organizations. You can see what you can search for by in the details that we provide you here. And then you can add in any, if you want, you can select any metrics that you think are important or look for geographies that the funders or you have updated as areas of interest. So what this looks like, if we go back to our main dashboard page, is, oops, you know what? I am in the wrong account. Hold on one second. So here are some better dashboards. These ones have been confirmed as really good. Okay, so this is the Delaware River Watershed Initiative. It's showing all projects that have been funded through this funding opportunity, as well as areas of interest for the projects. And at this level, what you can see are all the projects that have been funded and all the metrics that are being tracked across the entire program and the progress towards achieving those metrics. If you scroll in and choose a specific project, you can see any tags associated with it, where the practices are taking place, and metrics specific to that project. So this is a really great way to get a really top-down and bottom-up approach to tracking progress on conservation. I know I just covered a lot of information about how to implement your projects using FieldDoc. As a final aside, I want to show you some help documentation that we have available that you can access at any time. These are interactive and help documentations, which means that you can search articles for information. There's also brief trainings on specific components of the system. We also have a chat box where you can get in touch with myself or my team. And basically from 9 to 5, we try to be as available as possible. And if you're still not able to find the information that you need through these resources, always feel free to reach out and contact us through support at chesapeakecommons.org, and we will help get you the information that you need as soon as possible. As we have more trainings available and more updates, you'll be receiving emails if you have an account in the system. So if you see an email come through from the FieldDoc team, please open it. We try to limit ourselves to really important information to share. With that, I'm going to shut off this training. Good luck, and thank you for using this awesome system to track your restoration work. And thank you for all the great work you're doing for our water quality. Have a great day.